Perhaps you're wondering why I'm being so thoughtful. Well, for the past couple of days, I was thinking about movies. And isn't that all I think about? No, of course not. I was thinking about underrated movies. Movies that are liked by a selected few, but most people will disagree with them. They won't like them. They'll say that these movies are bad. And these are the movies that are considered guilty pleasures. Movies that you personally will like, but other people won't. And sometimes you'll admit to not liking them, because most people don't like them. So everyone has those type of movies. I do. I have movies that I really enjoy, and I find certain enjoyment in them for a specific reason. Either I grew up watching them from an early age, or there's certain elements of the film that I like. So, another thing that I wanted to mention before I get into the topic of underrated movies is that when it comes to recommending movies to friends or people who aren't film connoisseurs, they'll criticize the type of movies you like. I, for one, like all genre of films. I like horror, I like comedy, I like classical films, drama, and I get the comment a lot that I'll collect anything, that I'll buy any movie. That's not the case. The way I buy movies is based on films that I've seen in the past and I liked. I do buy movies every now and then that I have not seen, and that's based on an actor or a director that I follow. I follow a lot of actors and I follow a lot of directors, and based on that, I'll buy the film if it's cheap. And when I go to places like Big Lots, where they sell a lot of movies for cheap, for $3, I said, why not? Let me just buy it, because the price is going to be not that much different from, renting it for $4 at Blockbuster, or getting it from a Redbox. So that's the case most of the time. But in the majority of cases where I've seen a film before, I'll buy it and I'll add it to my collection. So I don't buy every single movie. There's movies that I don't like. But getting into the topic of underrated films, I have selected from my collection 10 films, 10 movies that I like, but not everyone likes. Keep in mind, everyone has different tastes, so I know some will agree with me and some will disagree with me. This is based on personal experience, not so much reviews on the internet, but personal experience with friends of mine who have told me, hey, these movies suck, why you watch these movies? They're not that great. But this is just movies that I personally like. So I'm going to share 10 movies that I consider great. And again, this is personal opinion. I'm not stating fact that these movies are awesome, that you should go watch them. I'm just saying these are movies that I like, and I confidently say that I like them, and I have no problem liking them. So I'll just start with one movie that I saw. This is the first Steven Seagal movie I saw. I'm a big Steven Seagal fan. Most people don't like Steven Seagal. I don't like Steven Seagal, the person. I like Steven Seagal, the actor. And most of the time, there's really no difference when you look at it. But Steven Seagal, the person, he seems, to me, at least to me, he seems very full on himself. The guy is an expert in Aikido. He has an 8th Dan belt in Aikido. He was the first Caucasian to open a dojo in Japan. So the guy is an expert in Aikido, but I think that he's really high on himself. Like, he thinks he's the best martial artist. I saw an interview with him not too long ago where he states he thinks that he is, a reincarnation of this Buddhist monk, and that he himself is the only great martial artist. The guy's close to 60 years old. I don't know if he's already 60, but he's huge, he's fat. He doesn't have the agility he once had. However, I am not saying the guy isn't lethal. I'm pretty sure he can beat me or anybody, any random person, average person up. But he tends to put himself up really high. But anyway, as for his films, I remember seeing his movies when I was a teenager. I liked them. I thought his agility and speed was fast when he was young. So I would say the first 5, 6 movies that he did, his early films, the golden age of Steven Seagal, are great films. They're great martial arts films. And one of my favorites that a lot of people who aren't Seagal fans, friends of mine who aren't film connoisseurs, they tell me, I've let them borrow the movie, and they say, this movie sucks. Why do you like this movie? And that movie is Above the Law. This is Steven Seagal's first film, released in 1988. And curious, Seagal was not an actor before this film. He had no acting experience before this film. He was given a starring role right away, and this was his first, leading role film. And the way it worked was Michael Oblitz, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, was a producer at Warner Brothers, and he knew Steven Seagal. He had done choreography in the 1983 film Never Say Never Again. He helped Sean Connery with some of the action sequences in that film. And I actually think, don't quote me on this, he actually injured by mistake. I don't know if it was on purpose, but they say it was by mistake he injured Sean Connery. But anyway, he did a screen test for Warner Brothers, and they let him choose from 3 different scripts, and he went on to write his own script, which became Above the Law. And this movie, when I first saw it, I didn't understand very much, but the action sequences were great. They were fast. The guy was in his prime, and watching it now, the plot is still a little convoluted, but I like the film. It's very dated. You can tell this movie hasn't aged that well, but the action sequences and the story, if you actually pay attention to it, it makes sense. It's a little hard to follow the first couple of times you watch it, but the story is mainly about Seagal's character, Nico Toscani. He was in Vietnam, and he was recruited by the CIA, and he abandons the CIA and the military in Vietnam, comes to the States, and there's men who are infiltrating drug-related, money and laundering, and they're after Toscani and his family. It has a mafia theme film to the movie. So, very underrated in my opinion. Is this my favorite Seagal film? I would say it's my second favorite. My favorite one is Hard to Kill, and most people like Hard to Kill and they like Under Siege, but they really don't mention Above the Law. So this is one movie that a lot of people don't like. Either I would assume fans of Seagal do like it, but people who are not really film connoisseurs or don't like movies like I do don't really care for Above the Law. The next one, this is an underrated Jackie Chan film, and I first saw this film when I was like 12 or 13. Not a good age to watch this movie because it's really violent, has a lot of drug content, a lot of nudity. It's really, really violent. And that movie is The Protector with Jackie Chan. This film is an interesting history. This film was one of the many films that was kind of like the break point for Jackie Chan to come here to the States and become a big, sensational action hero star. Back in Asia, Jackie Chan is very well known, and he has been known for many years. But he had a hard time coming here to the States in the sense of, breaking through and becoming an action hero star. So he did a film called Battle Creek Brawl in the early 80s, which became very successful in Asia, but did not become as successful here in the States. So Jackie Chan did a film in the mid-late 80s, I think this was in 1985, with the director James Glickenhaus. James Glickenhaus had done a film called The Exterminator, and his films were really kind of like B action films. So James Glickenhaus had the idea of putting Jackie Chan in a kind of Dirty Harry kind of movie, where the action sequences weren't as comical, they were very serious action scenes. So fans of Jackie Chan don't like this movie. They'll go on to say that this movie is a blasphemy, that it's not a Jackie Chan film, that it's a James Glickenhaus film. In my opinion, it's just a crime action film. It's the thing with Jackie Chan movies, the majority of them, the American films, I really don't like the American Jackie Chan films. I like the first Rush Hour, but I don't like the second or the third, and I don't like the Medallion or the Tuxedo and Around the World in 80 Days. Those ones, they're just kind of like tedious. His early films in Asia are great. Movies like Police Story, Super Cop, the Drunken Master, all those movies are great. And he has other films that have come out in Asia recently, like the Shinjuku Incident. There's a couple of movies that have come out that are really good. Like another one was 1911 Revolution. Great movies that he's done in Asia, but everything that he does here in the States, for the most part, isn't really good. So The Protector is a movie that's kind of overlooked. Those who watch it won't like it. there's two versions of this film, by the way. There's an Asian cut. Jackie Chan, when he filmed the movie, he was very displeased with the film, and he wanted to release the film in Asia, and most people in Asia wouldn't agree with the scenes that were in the movie. There's a lot of drug content, a lot of violence, a lot of nudity. So he trimmed the film, reshot a lot of scenes, and reshot a lot of the choreography, the action scenes in his style, the comical kind of, jumpy, action, which I like, but with this film it doesn't really work. This is a serious film. And yes, it has its cheesy elements. When you watch it, it's like this movie's it has its 80s, cheese, which you kind of have to like take for it, it's whatever. But the movie's good. I like it. It's not an excellent movie, but it's kind of like, they kind of really criticize this movie a lot. So this is one that I would, watch. I'm not saying, this is the most awesome movie in the world, but this is a movie that I like, that some fans of Jackie Chan, don't agree with. So, and by the way, I've seen the Hong Kong, the Asian version, the version that he reshot and redid, and I don't like it as much as the American cut. I'm one of the very few who actually prefer the American cut. Now, another movie here. This movie, I saw it in the theaters, and I loved it. And I find people who like this movie, and others who just don't like it. When this movie was released, the trailer when it was released, it was compared to 300. 300, I like 300, it was a good movie, but when I first watched it, I criticized 300 for not being historically accurate. But then I, read up on it. It's not based on the historical war, but more on the graphic novel from Frank Miller. So I said, okay, this makes a little bit more sense now. It's a great movie. It's a lot of action, but this movie, Immortals, I'm one of the few who prefer Immortals over 300. And the reason for that is the set designing, the fight sequences. Even though it's heavily inspired by 300, for some odd reason, the fact that this is mythology, and it follows mythology, even though the mythology that it follows is not completely accurate. I've heard from a lot of people who are, who know about mythology, that the film is really, out. It's kind of like just a big mess in the sense of, following accuracy. The same case is with 300. 300 is not really a historical film. I'm not saying that 300 is a bad movie. I'm just saying that I prefer this one more. Personal choice. That's just me. I liked the role of Mickey Rourke. He played this menacing, evil guy. And this guy's an asshole. I hope the main guy, Henry Cavill, beats the fuck out of him by the end of the movie. So I saw this one in theaters. I loved it, and when I got it on Blu-ray, I rewatched it a couple of times. So some people said that the gods, they look like GQ models. I'm like, it's a movie. I don't really criticize movies in the sense of, how do I put it? Like, stuff like that, something so silly as that. Like, I don't really pay attention to that. I pay attention more to the story, the set designing, how the plot unravels. But something as silly as that, like, oh, the character, the mythological gods, they look like GQ models. So this is the third film that I like, that most people just don't really like. Here's another one that everyone just doesn't like. Neither the regular nor neither the theatrical nor the director's cut. And that movie is Daredevil. When I first saw Daredevil, I wasn't too pleased with it. I felt like the movie, something was missing. I knew from the scratch that something was missing. And that was 30 minutes of footage that was removed and was re-edited, which many of you already know. And if you don't know, Daredevil, when it was released, they wanted it to be very similar in tone with the then popular Spider-Man movie, which was released a year previously in 2002. So in 2003, when they released Daredevil, they were trying to make it like this flashy, stylized action superhero movie. And the version, the director's cut, changes the movie completely. Very rarely do I see a director's cut change a film completely. There are some director's cut that change the film completely, like Kingdom of Heaven, Blade Runner, But for the most part, director's cuts, they don't really improve a movie. They really just like, okay, there's an added scene here, an added scene there. But with Daredevil, it changes the movie completely. And I really liked the way they added extra court scenes. So you actually see the character of Murdoch as a lawyer. You only see one sequence in the theatrical cut, I think, of him, practicing law. So you actually see more character development, and they removed some scenes that I thought were kind of ludicrous. Is the movie perfect? No, but I like it, so. This is a movie that was just ignored. Like, no one cares about it. It went out of the radar. And that's The American with George Clooney. When I first saw this movie, I was like, wow, this movie is so beautifully shot. The cinematography in this movie is great. It's shot in Italy, and the director of this movie chooses to film this movie kind of like, I don't know how to say this, like one of those classical film noirs. That's how I saw it. Like, I saw that the sequences were shot, very passively. Like, it's a traditional action spy film, a realistic spy film. Is the story in this film original? No, it's just a guy building weapons, and he's being chased by the bad guys. Very simple story, but the way it's shot, this movie is like, it's great. I love it. And George Clooney's portrayal of a serious character who's, very thoughtful. You really don't know much about him. He has a certain mystery to him, and he's also lethal. That really worked with this film. Curious enough, this film, there's a movie that came out a year after it called Drive, which I don't like as much. That movie has similar tone to this film, in the sense that mysterious guy, you don't really know much about him. That movie was praised as a tour de force, and this movie was completely ignored. No one really cared about The American. So, and they have similar tones. Another one that underrated, and I've let people borrow this movie, and they tell me, what the hell is wrong with you? Why do you like this movie? This movie's just garbage. And that's Another Earth. This movie, I'll admit, the advertising for this film made it look like a sci-fi film, and it really isn't sci-fi. It's a drama movie. There's a story within a story. There's a story of another Earth. They've discovered another Earth with identical people, mirror images of you in another planet. But that's not the main story of this film. The main story of this film is a girl who is kind of lost. She's kind of quitting school. She doesn't want to go to college. She has she's really smart. She can go to any college she wants, but decides to just become like a janitor. And she starts cleaning this guy's house and becomes really fond of him, good friends with him. And I'm not going to ruin much more, but the story in the film, how simple it is, how there's a large event taking place, like another Earth, something like that, and there's another story taking place within it. I felt that was really original. That happens to us in our daily lives. There's a big event going on, like a war or a tragic incident or whatever it is, and you're seeing your life in that moment correlating with those events. So, like, for example, during 9/11, anyone can remember where they were at the moment of 9/11 because it was a tragic moment. And you'll remember very vividly the things that happened. If I were to ask you if you remember anything you did yesterday, you probably won't remember in detail. But stuff like that you do. So this film, I remember almost every sequence of the film because it's relating to an event of discovering another planet. So I liked it. Most people didn't. A movie that's not so smart, but it's advertised as a silly movie, as a grindhouse movie, was disliked by a lot of friends of mine. They said this movie is just stupid, it doesn't really make much sense. Why have so many actors that, don't really belong in one film together? And that movie is Machete. I love this movie. It's cheesy, it's fun, it has comedy, it has action, it has all these elements, and it has Steven Seagal, who I really like. And he kind of pokes fun at himself in this movie, especially in the ending. I like the fact that you have Robert De Niro, Jessica Alba, Danny Trejo, Michelle Rodriguez, and you have other actors. You even have one of the actors from Spy Kids. It's like all in one movie. You don't really get that chance. And you have Jeff Fahey, who I hadn't seen since probably The Lawnmower Man. So that's one other movie. I'm gonna go a little further now, a little faster now. This movie, no one really likes. Everyone that I come across, no one likes this movie, and that's The Green Hornet. I've seen the original show with Bruce Lee. I'm a fan of Bruce Lee. He's a great martial artist. Him, I would consider the best martial artist ever. You know, the guy was very, very dedicated to his art, and he was preparing his own type of martial art. So if you were to tell me who was better, Steven Seagal or Bruce Lee, even though Bruce Lee passed away many, many years ago, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee is the man. You know, it's sad that he only got to do very few films, 5 movies, if I'm not mistaken. Chinese Connection, Fist of Fury, Game of Death. Game of Death is not really considered a full movie, but it's part of his cinematography. We have Enter the Dragon and The Way of the Dragon. So 5 films, unfortunately, he only got to do. But he previously, before that, he did the show Green Hornet. And it became popular in Asia, but not so popular here in the States. And this film, it doesn't follow the TV show. It's like a reinterpretation. And I like when they do that. If you do something scene by scene as the original, it loses its flavor, and it loses the purpose of making a remake. Kind of like Psycho. When you watch the remake of Psycho, it's a scene-by-scene remake of the original. And while I give pointers to Gus Van Sant, the director, for making a scene-by-scene remake, identical pretty much, there's really no point to watching that. Why would I want to watch a movie that's scene-by-scene, the same as the original? For that, I'll just watch the original. So I give brownie points to the creators of Green Hornet for making a completely different story to that of the original Green Hornet. So it kind of, is it an insult? No, it's not an insult. It's a comedy, it's an action film, it has a lot of elements. So it's always good to make something completely different from the original, but at the same time making it good. Like The Fly. If you watch the remake of The Fly, it's completely different from the original film, and at the same time it's considered a movie that surpasses the original. That's because it's very different from the first film. So that was another one that a lot of people don't seem to like. Here we have another one, The Fountain. I've let a couple of people borrow this movie, and they said they don't understand the plot, it really doesn't make any sense. This is a philosophical film. It's not really a linear story, because you have so many different stories. You have a future story, a present story, and a past story, all with the same actors, Rachel Weisz and Hugh Jackman. The movie is a message about death, about our mortality, that we're not meant to last. You know, we're trying to seek so much with science, trying to seek that we can live forever, and in the end, you know, we have to face the fact that we die. So the characters, the 3 characters in this film, which they are played by the same person, I don't know if they're meant to be related in different time eras, but they all are facing the same issue. Someone in their life is passing away or has passed away, and they want to bring them back. So I thought the directing in this film is spectacular. They used very little to no CGI. A lot of it was underwater photography. It was great. This movie was directed by Darren Aronofsky, who's a great director, by the way. But this movie was really underrated. Not many people like it. A lot of people overlook it. So this one I would recommend. If you like, you know, movies like Blade Runner, movies that are scientific in the sense that these are movies that are well shot, beautifully shot, and they're rich in story. And they can have many interpretations. You know, you can make your own interpretation of the ending and the storyline. So. And now for the last film, the last movie that I consider very, very underrated. This movie, I let a lot of people borrow this movie. Some like it, some don't. Those who like it, they say, it's alright, it's an okay movie. But to me, it's one of my favorite films. It's actually my 3rd favorite film of all time. And this movie is directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Everyone seems to dislike M. Night Shyamalan, and I understand why. You know, his movies have gone progressively worse. I stopped watching after The Happening. I don't know how bad his movies are now. They're probably just as bad. But there was a time when he did a little film like The Sixth Sense that, you know, it broke barriers in the sense of horror. You know, everyone loved it, you know. But I felt that everyone loved the movie more for the twist ending than the actual film. the movie had a really good story. The thing is that there's a movie that came after The Sixth Sense that I prefer more than The Sixth Sense. I think it's a much better movie. I'm not saying that The Sixth Sense is a bad movie, I just prefer this movie more. I thought it was very, very well written. And that movie is Unbreakable. This movie is really, really well written. It is a mythology, it's a study on the mythology of superheroes. And just heroes in the sense of all-day heroes. And, of course, superheroes too. The director did a great job in giving this feel of realism. This is the first time that you watch, and we will ever watch, a realistic superhero story. A lot of people felt the story was kind of tedious, that it was very, not realistic, and I disagree. It's an opinion, but I disagree. The movie was really well written. It is slow for some people. It might be a slow film for some people, but I like those type of films where you can sit down and observe the story and just follow the characters. Especially the characters are well developed, which is the case in this film. In this movie, Bruce Willis plays a guy who's never been sick in his life, and he survives this train accident, and he's the only survivor. There was one other survivor, but he was heavily wounded, and he's the only one without a scratch. So that causes a lot of stir. There's a character who's the opposite of Bruce Willis. It's Samuel Jackson. He plays a man who can be injured really easily. He has a condition where his bones, they break like glass. So in the film they call him Mr. Glass. And you start seeing the relationship between these two characters. How each one is different from the other. You know, Bruce Willis is a complete opposite of the character of Samuel Jackson. And I'm not going to mention too much on their opposites, because that will ruin the film. And I think the twist in this film surpasses the twist of The Sixth Sense, because it's a completely realistic take on how we all have someone that makes us a purpose. There's a purpose to a superhero. The purpose to a superhero is that he has to have a villain. And that was the case with Unbreakable. I felt they did a great job portraying that so well in this movie. So if you haven't seen it, I really recommend it. So those are the 10 movies that I enjoyed, that I personally enjoyed, that some people either like or dislike. But for the most part, I've found that a lot of people just they don't really agree with me, and that's okay, because that's how life is. Everyone has different tastes in film. So, but I just wanted to put that out there. 10 movies that I like that some people don't really agree with. Anyway, until next time, take care.